You can go on. You're muted.
Oh, all right, great. So good morning, everyone. For the people that joined early, really grateful that you were able to make it on time. So if you have somebody that you invited to be part of the session and they're not here, you can't see them, please just send them a reminder so they can join. As you all know, this program is hosted by the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Abuja branch. But Build for Balance is a program I'm really happy to introduce you all to. And we are partnering with NSC to deliver this program, Entrepreneurship and Skills Development. For those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Napa, not Nepa, Napa. And prior to my current role, I was the startups leader for Middle East, Africa, Turkey for Amazon Web Services. I was the head of sales for Google Africa before then, and I've worked in Microsoft, Cisco, SAP, Visa, Nokia. Currently, I work with startups to help them build platforms or technology, especially non-tech founders. So I don't know who we have so many people on the call. A lot of cameras are off. But how many of you remember this at the beginning of the year? No grief for anybody. Can you put a comment in the chat if you remember this? Abi, we have forgotten. It's April 13th. Does anybody remember? I believe everybody's joining from Nigeria on this call, so we don't have people that are outside Nigeria. But who remembers? Oh no, the chat box must be happening. Esther, thank you for the thumbs up. Nobody else remembers this. Oluwatoyin says she does. Yes, it was all over social media. It was on Twitter, it was on Instagram. People were doing some very lovely. Olufunke, you raised your hand. Yes, you also remember. Jerry says I do. I know, right? It was everywhere. And so many people have, I don't know if we've forgotten, or is it that we remember or we've forgotten, or some of us are still operating in no grief for anybody. But this is very interesting how people started the year with a lot of fire and ginger. So I'm hoping if you still have that fire and ginger, today's session is going to help you continue in not agreeing for anybody. Did anybody see the meme where they said, what happened to him? He said he no grief for anybody. And they carried him out on a stretcher. It was hilarious. But for Build for Balance, our own motto is not no grief for anybody, but really it's a community of people that are very intentional about building the life they want, about what you already have. And I hope everybody can see my slides. We have 8 key pillars. We speak about your core, faith, your health, your money, and then we also move into things like career, business, your leadership, and relationships. And how we deliver this, we deliver it through workshops like this, where we have amazing, I can't wait for you to meet our speakers. Like if you have a seatbelt, just put your seatbelt on. Our speakers are top notch, so please look out for it. So these are the kind of workshops we hold. We also have a newsletter that has a lot of information around job openings, things that you want to learn, tools, resources, and then we have e-learning and resources, like I've said. And then we also have Cafe Napa, because a lot of people do need coaching or business advice, but maybe they can't afford it. Cafe Napa is a 30 free business or coaching session that you can access if you're part of the Build for Balance community. So that's a great introduction, right? And I hope we've warmed up the room a bit. It's an open session. If you feel strong enough, you can put your camera on. I know we have webinars. I think we have maybe an average of 5-10 webinars you get invited to every day. But if you can, turn on your camera. But most importantly, be putting your comments during the sessions. So we are going to be having a Q&A after each session. But the truth is the people that ask the questions first usually get their questions answered. So engage, be open, share. Even though we have 3 titans of industry that will be speaking to us today, I know a lot of you have a lot of experience and you also want to share. So please keep the chat box hot and on fire as you share your insights and comments. So we're going to have 3 big sessions today. The first one, marketable skills for engineers, by my dear friend Nkem. And then job readiness and the future of work by an Amazon in business, Esther. And then building a successful startup by Cynthia Ichisom, my girl, my babe. Then we're going to have a more expanded Q&A. And please stay to the end because we have a couple of prizes and some nice announcements that might benefit you. So if you are ready, can you just put your favorite emoji in the chat? I'm expecting, how many people do we have on the call, Faith? Can you see the numbers? So I'm expecting a lot of emojis. Abi, because the cameras are off, some people are sleeping. I don't know. Moshu, thank you so much. I'm seeing some emojis. Olufunke, I'm seeing the hands up. Yes, ID, Edidion, thank you so much. So are we saying there are only 4 people in this call? Okay, great. Stephen, thank you, thank you. Why are all the emojis yellow? Jerry, there are no brown hands, nothing, right? So as you have done that, can we welcome our amazing speakers? As you're putting the emojis, just say hello, welcome, thank them for their time. I like the muscle emoji. Let's just welcome Nkem, Esther, and Cynthia. They're the ones that'll be speaking to us today. You guys are not welcoming them. I don't understand. Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's not easy to come on and share. So you guys have to be very supportive during this call. Olufunke, I'm seeing your emoji and I'm liking it. So thank you so much for that. So we're ready to start. But before we start, we're going to have a vote. I'm sure you can sense that this is a very interactive session. Jonathan, I don't understand your emoji and I do not accept it. I don't understand why it's a dead emoji, okay? We're going to do a vote. Now, you're going to do vote either A or B. And the vote is going to say which one you would prefer, okay? So in the chat, you put A and B. I'm liking the chat box. It's waking up, it's waking up. Edidion says B. How do you know it's going to be B? Is the vote up? Edidion, is this a prophecy? Okay, so let me explain the votes. You're asked to choose between A meeting with the richest man in Africa, our dear Aliko Dangote, who is worth $15.5 billion, or you're giving cash in hard currency, $10,000. Are you choosing A? Are you choosing B? Oh, A, okay, B. A. Okay. Oh, so far only 2 A's. B. Jerry says B. Philip says B. Kennedy says B. Samuel B. Olufunke B. No, Olufunke, I noticed you didn't put emoji you didn't put hands up. You made sure you typed the B. Abdul Salam says B. Okay, so I must be honest. I don't know whether I would choose A or B. Later people are saying A, and they came at the end. All right, so without further ado, we're welcoming our first speaker. Jerry, you voted before. Now you're voting again. INEC is coming for you. So we're welcoming our first amazing speaker, somebody that I respect so much, Nkem Nkwe. He's worked in the technology space for over 15 years. He's an advocate for innovation. He has expertise in problem framing, design sprint, product development, and his drive to redefine narratives stems from his dedication to unravel local challenges and craft solutions with global impact. By day, he leads the innovation for Microsoft Africa's Development Engineering Center. So he's an engineer, just like all of you on the call, while he contributes to the startup ecosystem and he consults across enterprise organizations during his free time. He has a PMP certification from the Project Management Institute, as well as certifications in innovation and project management. He's earned his BSc in computer science from the University of Nsukka and an MBA in business administration and projects from the University of Manchester, United Kingdom. All right now, okay, come and wow us now. You know when I was reading your profile, I said I'm feeling shorter by the second. So I'm going to be handing over to you to talk to us about marketing skills for engineers.
Thanks, Napa. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Excellent. Super. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. Thanks so much to Napa. Thanks to the Built for Balance team. Thanks also to the Nigerian Society of Engineers team for also making this happen. Always glad to be in the midst of young people, old people, to see how we can, talk, engage and share ideas. So today I'll be talking on marketable skills for our engineers. And like Napa said, I think I'm a recent engineer, if I should use that word, because my background from over 15 years, even though spanning tech, has also cut across sales, consulting, and now engineering. Since I joined the engineering division in Microsoft probably about 3-4 years ago. But again, since I've been in technology, I would say that, I've basically been an engineer all my life, as it were. But it's interesting that we're talking about this topic around skills, because today we live in a world that is rapidly changing. We live in a world that is technology is so fast that, you're just starting to use this new tool, and next thing you hear, something else has come out. 2 days ago, I heard about a new AI tool called Perplexity. This morning, I woke up and I was reading that Meta, which used to be Facebook, is now bringing up their own AI tool. And I thought to myself, that's a brilliant idea, because the whole world is on Facebook and WhatsApp, which is owned by Meta. So they're basically catching up the whole market. But basically, you'd see that our world is shifting so much, and I think one of the most significant things that has happened to us maybe in the past 10 years is COVID, right? And that basically shows you how our world has changed. Nobody believed that we would sit down at home for 2 years with a mask, not even shaking the other person, or not even, being afraid of, what could happen. But interestingly, within those COVID years, you would see, for example, organizations that did 300% on their numbers. You would see new innovations that came out, for example, even when there was lockdown. And you'd see some businesses who you thought that were very, very strong, with foundations on the ground, that basically fizzled away because they didn't, expect or anticipate, or they didn't know how to handle, change, right? We live in a world today where somebody would say, I'm going because my Uber is downstairs, right? As compared to maybe 20 or 30 years ago, you have to walk down your street and flag, a car down, right? You see somebody, for example, who would say, oh, come and meet me at my Airbnb, right? As compared to meet me at Sheraton or meet me at Marriott. But our world is changing now, because people are now thinking through different ways they can express themselves, and live. So you are a business person, you're going to Morocco, and you also have, you're also an exploratory person, and you go to your computer and you say, oh, I'm looking for an Airbnb that can put me by the seaside, or put me, by, the Grand Mosque, because, I also want to use my time after 5 or 6 o'clock, after my meetings are done, to just walk around the streets and take some pictures and have fun as well, right? So it basically shows us, for example, how, our world, is changing, and how, we need to begin to, adapt, right? Consumers are asking for more interesting things. And, as engineers, we are basically, the foundation that holds development, as we go. Next slide, Napa. And, my next slide basically looks through, the age. And I'm sure some of you would agree with me that there are people today who were born in 1950, probably 70 years or 74 years old, who are still in the engineering business today, or in the engineering practice. There are people who were born in the 1960s, Gen X, who are still in engineering. There are people who, millennials like myself, who were born in the 1980s, right, are still in the engineering business. And we have younger Gen Zs who are in engineering business. So you begin to see a generation spanning 80 years still within the engineering business, which basically tells us that, engineering has evolved as a discipline, right? Even though it was manually focused, because, for example, in the 1950s, Napa, I think you're too fast. I'm still on your page. Yeah. In the 1950s, for example, engineering design, was basically, done by manual drafting. But today you begin to see the rise of, computer-aided, designs that aid, for example, engineering, drawings to be done. We begin to see that, engineering is now increasingly becoming, data-driven, right? So engineers are looking at how can they use data to do their work some more. We begin to see, for example, the impact of things like globalization, right? So engineers now want to see how they can be an interconnected engineering workforce. We begin to see the rise of, automation and AI, right? How does that affect you in the engineering space? And interestingly, we're talking today about, skill sets. All these changes across the ages, will begin to ask us, what are the skills that we need today to begin to thrive in the world that we live in? So imagine having a discussion with a 70-year-old engineer and somebody who is, a 50-year-old and somebody who's a millennial and a Gen Z, and you begin to see how interesting the discussion is going to go through on their experiences and things, that they can learn, which also reinforces the point of continuous learning. And it asked me a question where I was wondering and preparing the slide, what then is the future, of engineering, right? If we look through, 80 or 90 years of the same engineering discipline, we begin to see, for example, and if you research this, you'll find out, for example, things like, big data, right? Where people want to begin to connect information together. We begin to see things like Internet of Things. We begin to see things like, digital twins, right? Where people, for example, so an example of digital twin, if you think about, NLNG, where they have their train 7 or train 8, and, they are, picking up, gas from, the ocean. A digital twin, is an engineering build of the same train 8, even though in virtual form. And it has, using Internet of Things devices, it has a spot check on everything that the main, train 8 has, so that if there is a problem or if there is an issue, the digital twin is able to give you that information in rapid time so that you can plan and, see how you can work on your main, on your main plans. We begin to hear things, for example, like green engineering, right? We begin to see things like automation. So seeing that our world is changing, seeing that we have 80 or 90 years across generations today who are still in the future of, in the engineering business, the future of engineering is something I think everybody on this call, should begin to research some more and learn. Next slide, Napa. So I did some checks and, we begin to see that when we talk about skills, organizations like the World Economic Forum are now saying that, the 3 most in-demand skills which are crucial for engineers are problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, right? Which, if you talk to somebody who was, in the engineering business maybe 30 or 40 years ago, they may not necessarily agree with you, but it basically shows how our world, is moving. LinkedIn basically says that, 13% of engineers from the Africa region feel less prepared to take up, roles in the business, right? And, in looking at that study I was reading, I guess their less preparedness basically came from the fact that, they didn't know as much as they wanted to know, or because, again, from our universities and our schools that teach engineering, you all will agree with me that they are not as, as probably informed or as recent as they should be, as it were. But, it's great that we're all on this call, and I hope that as we discuss, we begin to learn some more things, right? McKinsey and company, for example, mentioned that 800 million jobs is going to be impacted by automation, which basically means that 800 million jobs are going to be lost by year 2030. And in fact, I can tell you that even in 2025, we begin to see the impacts of automation, because you see what, AI, is, doing within our world today. Most companies are now saying, if AI can provide me this service that, and these two people in my office are providing me, I don't need them to work for me anymore, right? So, you now basically tell, those who are working for you, to leave. And that's one of the big reasons, at least within the IT space, we've seen lots of job losses, in companies like, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and all that kind of stuff. Automation is really, working in the world that we live in, and we need to take, cognizance of that. Somebody's asking if they can hear me. Napa, can you guys hear me still, or is it?
I can hear you. I don't know
Can
who
you
else
hear
is
Yes,
me?
having challenge.
yes, I can
Can
hear
hear
you.
you
Excellent. Okay.
clearly.
All right.
Okay.
Then we also see that the global percentage of jobs that are being sought today, 35% globally, which is a huge number, are engineering roles, which basically tells anybody on this call that there are going to be jobs for engineers until Jesus or Muhammad comes, right? So the whole idea again, and considering the fact that we're talking about skills, is to find out what are those skills that I'm going to need or use to make sure that I continually become relevant. And when we talk about skills, next slide, Napa, to me, I believe that, skills are those, superpowers that you use to, for example, define yourself. I would say, skills are, you being like a Superman, for example, minus your cape, and the ties that you wear. But, that is basically who you are. Skills are like, the muscles, for example, in your brain, right? And, as much as you continue to work those muscles, you begin to see that your brain, provides or produces more insights or more clarity to you. You can say skills are, your personal, cheat codes, which is basically what differentiates you, from the other person on how, you can do things better. And when we talk about skills, we basically see where, people in the industry begin to differentiate skills between soft skills and hard skills. Now, next slide, Napa. And, hard skills basically are, skills that you learn, for example, in school, right? You are a programmer, you take time to learn these skills. You go and take some training, you do some certifications that basically shows that, Microsoft or AWS has said, this person has the technical know-how to be able to be, a network or an AutoCAD engineer and stuff like that. Hard skills are like, plumbing, right? Soft skills, on the other hand, are skills that come, out of, your personality, are things, are things that, you develop or that, within yourself. And the next slide talks to, a breakdown where I basically showed examples of what hard skills and soft skills are. For example, negotiating, you know that there's some people, even without, them telling you you're in a room, but you say, this person, is a great decision maker or is a great negotiator. I liked how you asked that question and how you made the customer, agree to your point of view. Or, you're a very curious person, or you have empathy. I like the way, you take care of people, or you ask questions in a non-harsh manner. Those are soft skills, right? Hard skills, for example, like I mentioned to you, you're a plumber, you want to understand budgeting, you want to operate an equipment better. You're taken to a plant, or a distribution chain. Hard skills, show you a manual which you need to go through. Probably you're given a mentor who is going to guide you, and you begin to see that over 6 months or 9 months or so, you get better, at having those hard skills. And there are quite a lot of them. And I think, it would be great for everybody, listening to begin to find ways to identify, what are those, hard skills that are important, to me in the field of engineering. What are those soft skills as well that I have that I can make sure that I use to make my work as an engineer better. So what happens when hard skills and soft skills collide? Is it possible that hard and soft skills can collide? Can we get a yes or a no if anybody in the chat box thinks that hard skills and soft skills can collide? Napa says yes. I wasn't asking you. Thank you very much, though. Okay, we have a yes from Jonathan. Absolutely, from Olufunke. Excellent. Can anybody tell me take a wild guess who the lady on the left side of your screen is? And Napa, don't answer. Do not answer. Anybody take a wild guess on who the lady on the left side of the screen is? Can anybody take a guess on who the person on the right side of the screen is? I'm asking you to name the person on the left or the right side of the screen. The lady on the left. Does anybody know her name just by looking at the picture? Or the chap on the right side of the screen? Okay, Edith Young, Stephen, no. Yes, Toby, Oluwatoberu, you got it, Satya Nadella. So Satya is the guy on the right side of the screen. So, okay, for us to go on, I put these two pictures, to share a mini case study with you guys. The lady on the left side of the screen, her name is Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl used to be the chief operating officer of Facebook, now known as Meta. And why I put her on this screen is she's somebody who comes from a hard skills background. She has an undergraduate degree and a master's degree in the field of economics, and has gone well to do quite a number of things before she came into Meta. But however, she came into Meta at a point whereby they needed somebody who had negotiating skills. And she used those negotiating skills. She used those skills of advocating for women in leadership roles to be able to define who she is. So for those who know her very well, for example, there's a book that she wrote. She has a podcast. And, that book was basically, trying to, advocate for how women can be better in engineering roles, or how women can be better in the business. And she's basically known as somebody who basically used her capacity as the CEO in Meta to be able to take them out of some very, very, very interesting troubles. On the other side, you have Satya Nadella, the current CEO of Microsoft. Satya has been in Microsoft for over 30 years. He started as a hardcore engineer. He was working on the Windows operating system. He was basically an engineer who basically rose through the ranks. And today he's the CEO. And if he's known for anything, he's known as basically advocating, for cloud computing, advocating for software development, advocating, for AI and technologies that will basically, help people grow. So basically, in Satya's history as a current, CEO of Microsoft, you see things like empathy, you see things like inclusivity, you see things like adaptability, which, if you agree with me, in the field of engineering, listen, engineers are basically known as very hard people, carrying your iron or your hoe and doing what you're doing. That's what basically engineers are known for. But these two people basically show how they bring in hard skills but infuse soft skills into them, and it basically supports or helps their organization or people who follow them. The next slide now is me thinking, so I'm listening to you, Ken, how do I improve my hard skills? And I say to improve your hard skills, to improve your skills, not just your hard skills, both your soft skills and your hard skills, the practical things you can do is, sign up for a class. So, or maybe even identify what are those hard skills you need to, sign up for, or soft skills where you feel that you come short, right? Sign up for a class, see if you can get, certified, in that area, or you can just, pick up a new hobby. And hobbies mean even that, getting interested in a particular place, right? See areas where you can, volunteer to support people. The other day I met somebody who told me that he volunteers his time in an old people's home somewhere in Mushin. And, I was like, why do you do that? And he was like, he just wants to be around old people. That, and he started telling me, how what his experience was, with his auntie who, brought him up, and she was very old. She couldn't stand up. She couldn't help herself. People needed to help her. People needed to clean her up. And this was a very, able and great person, in her early years, right? And he basically saw her, degenerate. And he was not asking himself, other people who are like her, how are they being helped or so? So he's now thinking about starting an NGO that can support, these old and aging people, and which basically talks to, a soft skill of building empathy, around you, right? So to the story I just told you, he was now being intentional about something he felt, was a problem or an issue. And as well, you can learn on the go, right? We live in a world now where, we have so much screens on with us. You wake up, first thing you open, is your phone. Before you sleep, is your phone as well. So why can't you take those moments, to identify a skill that you want, and either on, YouTube or TikTok or, whatever it is, you can see how you can learn a skill or two. Importantly, I would also say, please make sure you always get mentorship, in whatever it is that you do. Now, the next slide talks of word on the streets, which I took out from, the World Economic Forum, which basically talks to the fact that 50% organizations are saying that, 50% of, employees globally by 2025 are going to need reskilling, which talks to the point that, organizations are now, seeing the fact that, like back then when I was in sales, we're told, you are as good as your last sale. So yes, you closed $100 million, day before yesterday, they rang the bell for you, you met your numbers, but yeah, that's it. You have new numbers, to go and make. So you just can't keep on saying, I had a Mercedes-Benz. That one now before, not be now. What do you have now? You had a Mercedes-Benz, well, that's good. You closed $100 million, that's good. What about today, right? So reskilling, is something that is very important for organizations as we move, into the world. 44%, for example, of co-workers of core skills are going to change. So the interesting thing about skilling as well is, skill changes and evolves with time, right? So it's important that reskilling is something, that you put in front of you. What skills do I need, to work with my children? What skills do I need in this area of engineering? We now see that green engineering is the way to go, right? What is green engineering? What skills is needed? AI is one of the top topics, for example, that people, are sharing, anywhere around the world. Sustainability is another topic that people are sharing around the world. As an engineer, how does sustainability affect what I do? How will it affect, my future? What skills do I need to learn today, to be able to make sure that I'm good, at what I do? So this is what, the streets are saying. The next slide talks to the top 10 skills, again, that, organizations globally believe that you would need as, a business person, as an engineer in 2025, which is just, 1 year away, right? So we basically see that, the skills cut across, problem solving, the skills cut across self-management, the skills cut across working with people, and the skills cut across technology. So regardless of how you want to break or dimension, these skills, what it's basically saying is that as an engineer, you need to be a problem solver. You need to manage yourself, right? We've gone past, the world now where people expect people to continue managing them. We want you to self-manage. We want you to be able to work with people. You have an engineer who you're working with, who is probably from India or probably from a different culture or tribe. What we're saying is that we expect you to begin to learn people skills, begin to learn critical skills that you can use to support, what they're doing. And technology. Yes, like I said, traditional engineers are basically known as people, who carry, their machines and walk up and down. But today, you cannot remove engineering from technology. So how, for example, is AI going to affect, you? How can you use technology to make your work as an engineer, either a civil engineer or a building engineer? How can you use technology to make it faster, right? Building any of these, 4 core types of skills is going to assure that you have more success, you have more visibility, and you have more speed in what you're doing. The next slide basically talks about, a quote which said that, again, global business executives are saying, that soft skills and hard skills are important for the success, of every employee. And the next slide talks about, again, essential skills, which I've talked about earlier, you being creative, you being able to communicate. And, sometimes, people underestimate the impact of communication. It's a skill, which, you need to build across, any field you find yourself in life. How much more engineering? You need to learn how to collaborate. You need to learn how to think critically out of the box. You also need to learn how, computer technology, can work around your thinking. So as we close today, imagine if every engineer, again, talking about communication, felt confident to be able to communicate within their team, right? That they can talk to a technical audience. One of the things that I find, typical of engineers, especially, in my organization, or maybe even globally, is engineers like to work alone. They like to sit down, do what they do, but they can't talk to the customer. But I ask them, if you can't talk to the customer, you're building tools for the customer to use and you can't talk to them, right? So it's very, very important that we learn the skill of communication. Imagine if, we had educational institutions today who were able to, come together. Imagine if you had, the NSC, you had Build for Balance, and you had the University of Lagos or University of Nsukka or University of Port Harcourt having programs like this, or they call Build for Balance to say, build us, a curriculum or a program to ensure that, our engineering department have, this hard and soft skills, from when they go from, 100 level to 500 level. That will be a great partnership that will ensure that the next level of, or the next set of engineers who we're going to, graduate in the next, 5 or 10 years are basically coming out more ready, for the job at hand. And I end with, a quote which, is very dear to me by a Japanese Army general who mentioned that knowledge, is not skill, right? But skill is built when you do that same thing repeatedly over 10,000 times and you master it. So while I clearly understand that you all have your engineering degrees, you all have, all your certifications, which is great, and you've known them over time, but to master, your skill, in a particular area or the rest, you need to continue to repeat, to do those things and get better at it. And I'm sure, you get the validation of your colleagues or your bosses, as an engineer working in this organization, that person X or person Y, is good in this area or good in the other area. And with that, I want to say, thank you very much for listening to me. I hope that you've learned some things. Happy to take your questions and your insights and observations.
I mean, Nkem, thank you so much for that really insightful presentation. Nkem's LinkedIn link is in the chat if you want to engage. But Nkem, this presentation, this topic we spoke about, I remember working with an amazing software developer, full stack, absolutely amazing, but he could not communicate except in his local language. It was such a deterrent. So I ended up working with a less experienced engineer, just because we couldn't put him in front of customers, because he would always say, do you understand my local language? And then he will switch. So I can't even explain how much I resonated with the soft skills. And then you put my 2 icons on your screen, Sheryl Sandberg and Satya. I mean, two amazing people that turned big global tech companies around, you know, based on soft skills. Yeah, so thank you so much for that. I don't know if there are any questions in the chat. We're hoping Nkem will be with us to the very end. But if you have any questions, we'll be taking the first question in the chat. While we wait for the okay, so Stephen, do you want to come off mute and ask your question? I think we have time for just Stephen's question.
I think I saw Stephen's question as what's the difference between critical thinking and computation?
Thinking and computer, yes, please.
Yeah. So computational thinking basically is how you use technology, if I should use that word, or computation, which is, so for example, imagine that you are a data engineer and you're working with numbers, right? You have to crunch numbers to be able to make meaning or insights out of it. There are tools that can aid you to do that, right? And when you say, you're thinking critically, you're not, thinking about, the usual thing. You're asking yourself what if questions. You're asking yourself, how might be questions. You're considering, different aspects or different non-usual factors that are around the challenge or the issues that you're taking. I think is the Japanese car maker Toyota that have this model where they ask the 5 whys. So you have an issue in front of you, you're asking why, you get the answer, you're asking why again, until you get to the 5th one, right? And it basically shows that, you're basically thinking through your problem. There's something that I began to work on, which I kind of coined question storming. Because sometimes as engineers, we bring people in the room and we say, let's brainstorm. And when people are brainstorming, you basically find out that they are they're giving you the usual answers, to a problem or a question. But I told my guys, just, can you just stop giving me the usual answers? Let's answer in questions, right? When you look at that issue or when you look at that opportunity, what are the top 3 questions that come to you? And when people in the room come together and, these questions are all put together, it begins to bring out different insights that we didn't think about or consider. So that's how basically I would, paint or skirt around the question Stephen has asked. I hope it provides some clarity.
Oh, sorry, Nkem, there's another question on how you contribute to the startup ecosystem, and then Engineer Osi will be the last question before we go to Esther's. We're a little bit over time. Nkem, you're on mute.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah,
Yes,
I do
yes.
quite a lot of work with people in the startup space. There are some startups that I mentor. There's some startups that I consult for. There's some startups as well that I basically, for example, last week alone, there's an organization called Accelerate Africa, which is an accelerator program that is new, but is under the Future Africa initiative. And throughout last week, we're basically talking to 10 startups. We selected from 800 startups, and we're trying to, hone their skills and, position their ideas in such a way that we put them, in front of people who hopefully are going to fund them, right? So these are the little things that I do, trying to at least support or work with those in the startups, because I believe that the startup and entrepreneurship model, which is passing through, I guess the whole world really, is something that we should embrace and support young people, to look out for the non-traditional ways of employment, which yesteryears obviously you are done from school, you want to go and work in the bank, work in an oil company, but now the startup ecosystem is asking you to think for yourself, right? Look at the problems that you have around your environment and see if it is enough problem for you to hopefully solve, make impact, and hopefully make some money out of it. So when I see young people who do that, I'm happy to support them as much as time permits me.
Wonderful. Engineer Osi, we're over time, and it's only because of you. So quick
All
question
right,
from
mine
you.
is very simple. Once again, thank you. Let me join Napa to thank you, Nkem, for this awesome presentation. When you were starting, you mentioned the new AI technology by Meta, that's Facebook. And you also mentioned the opportunities that these young engineers can, explore opportunities. You mentioned TikTok and the YouTube, for instance. Yeah. Now, I want you just to be specific in just 30 seconds. Can you mention, because majority of our participants are young engineers, one or two opportunities that are available for them, maybe in TikTok, YouTube, and also making use of the more opportunities available in the AI world now. Is there anything they can, utilize with these, tools, using these tools to, improve their lot? Thank you.
Thank you. So there are quite a number of, tools that young people can use today. In fact, as a young person, if you're not busy, I'd be highly disappointed in you. You don't have enough time to engage with the amount of information that we have available today. So again, I was just using TikTok and YouTube as an example. I mentioned quite a number of things around the future of engineering, where I talked about digital twins, right? So I talked about digital twins. I talked about wireless power transfer. So there are technologies in the engineering field that is coming today that is ensuring that the use of wires and cables like we've known it for the past 80 or 100 years is now going to be history, right? So I would expect somebody who is listening to me to jump into, even as I'm talking, I've been typing some things and checking it out online as I'm talking with you, right? I expect young people to go to YouTube, to go to TikTok, to go to different social media sites and ask questions. One of the things that I find frustrating with young people and even old people nowadays is people don't ask questions. Because we have so much data in the world, you just feel like, the first answer that you get from Google, should be the answer. But you would see underneath your Google page that it has from page 1 to, maybe 15 or 29, which means that there are already 15 other pages that you can get your answers from. We need young people who are able to ask questions. We need young people who are able to probe. So probe using, Google, probe using YouTube, probe using TikTok or Instagram. It is how much you ask those questions that the answers would come out from you. I talked about digital twins. I talked about automation. It's that thing of, again, and I think it's also a skill. So asking questions is a skill. Putting yourself in the mind frame where you're able to, engage or research. I don't know somebody who would call himself an engineer and you don't research, right? It doesn't make sense to me, right? The likes of ChatGPT, for example, and Bard, these are AI tools that are free and available today that people can ask questions, and these tools are going to give you answers that are more brilliant than yourselves. I don't know if you guys saw a report which basically says that ChatGPT, this is an AI tool, it passed 70% of all the global exams in the world today, right? Which means that if you are in an exam room and I'm not saying you should do this, but ChatGPT can actually pass your exam and you copy it and paste it and give it to your lecturer. So you can imagine those questions, for example, that you may want to ask me or ask Napa today. It's possible that an AI tool can pick up information from different systems that's been learning from over the years globally and even provide you that answer, right? So Engineer Osi, I think the most important thing is for us to find ways to encourage our young and even our old experienced people, to ask more questions, because the tools are in our hands. Everybody who has a phone today and you have internet connectivity to be able to browse, the answers of everything you need. Is it on, if you go to LinkedIn, there are classes. Yesterday alone, I took about 3 90-minute classes, on LinkedIn, because I was searching for something. And as I was searching for it, I just saw a prompt that showed me, LinkedIn learning, learn more about this. And I was like, okay, if I can learn more about this, I would schedule my time throughout the day. And I took those slots for 4 different courses and I did. If I can do it, as experienced as I am, I don't see why young people, shouldn't use their time wisely, to be able to search for information. Then you can reach out to an APAN, you can reach out to an engineer OC to get clarifications, based on, what you have learned or what you have researched. I'll be more impressed with you as a young person if you come to me and say, hey, I researched these 4 things in this area of green engineering, but I want to get, your perspective out of it. It tells me, more and would probably, endear me to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nkem. That was so insightful. I hope you saw some of the comments that people were sharing. Please connect with Nkem on LinkedIn, but like he said, you have to show a little bit of curiosity and research on your own. Don't just come and say, how do I get a job in TikTok? I don't know where the TikTok careers page is. You don't know what the open opportunities are. You don't know how they employ. You don't know how they interview. So it's very important to put some effort because everything is available to you. I don't want to talk about when I was in high school. Maybe that was 1952, but we had encyclopedias that were physical documents, physical. We didn't have the internet. Yeah, I know it's mind-blowing to some of you younger people. So before we call our next amazing speaker, we're going to do our next vote. Remember, you vote A and B. I don't want anybody fighting in the comment section over this vote. I don't think I need to introduce either of these 2 legends. If you don't know them, I don't know how to help you. But who do you vote? Who is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, between A, Messi, and B, Ronaldo? I don't know. Engineer Yusuf, I was your fan, but now no longer. Because I am a, thank you. Okay, Philip is a, some people actually can fight over this kind of votes. And they will now start saying, but Messi is the god of soccer. When Messi kicks a ball, it just enters the goalpost. Some other people will say Ronaldo, his work ethic. There are more Messi fans in this room. Engineer Osi, I'm beginning to doubt the comment section of this room. But both of them are amazing. Somebody said B. Ifeolu, I don't know why you're voting twice. I'm going to call INEC officials for our next vote, please. I want to introduce our next amazing speaker. Esther currently serves as the Business Development and Economic Growth Lead of DAI Nigeria. She began her career as a management consultant at Deloitte before joining PwC, where she honed her expertise in research leadership. She holds a first-class degree in economics, graduated with a distinction from Warwick Business School with the MSc in Business Analytics and Consulting. Her commitment to continuous learning led her to attain an executive certificate in economic development from the prestigious John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Beyond her professional endeavors, Esther is the founder of Beyond a Degree, an amazing NGO actually that's dedicated to supporting students and new graduates in their transition to post-academic life. Esther is an accomplished author, having penned 2 insightful books, Driving in Lagos and Raising the Queen. Please, can you guys welcome Esther? Did you not see Harvard there? Did you not see John F. Kennedy School? Did you see one? Esther, whenever people, when I talk about you, I'm always like, there's nothing this Amazon cannot do. So if Nkem made me feel short, you have made me feel shorter. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you made the time for
you.
us today. And I know you're going to be talking about job readiness and the future of work. So I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, great. Can you hear me clearly, perfectly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad to be here. Napa, well done to the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Well done to Engineer OC for making sure this happens. Yeah, so I've been introduced. Amazing one by Inkem at the beginning. Well done, Inkem. I'm definitely connecting with you after this. We realize that networking is one of the skills that we need now, to be honest, and all. So yeah, let's get on to my session. Job readiness and the future of work. So I'll do a quick introduction. I'll speak on recent trends in work. I'll speak on what's required from you as a young engineer. Then we will conclude. Okay. Yeah, so I'm a storyteller, like Nafa said, right? So I've written 2 books. So I definitely love to start my presentations with stories. And that's me. I'm looking at that picture, and that picture looks like 2, 3 years ago. No, that's like 16 years ago when I graduated from Unilag. I was gonna ask, is there any Akokites in the house? But I know most of us are in Abuja. But yeah, that was me about 16 years ago, graduating from economics. Finished well. Best graduating student in my class. Also the best graduating student in my faculty. I had multiple awards. Though I wish I knew better. By now, I'll be a billionaire in terms of the cash prizes I got then and all. Now, this is the part I need you to think about, right? Beyond all of the accolades and all. My expectation was that after school, come on, I will be flooded with many job offers. I mean, look at it. My CGPA was, do I even remember it? Yes, I do. I think it was like a 4.8 out of 5. And that means I got maybe, I don't know how many B's I got, and the rest were A's. But the truth was that the job offers did not come flooding like it would have come flooding in the time of my parents once you finish with a degree and I mean a class like this and all. They didn't come flooding. I had a few tests with banks, but I didn't want to work in a bank. All right. And so I had to do a lot more to get a job. And some of the things I will be sharing today are the things I needed to do. Okay. So yes, the reality was that getting a degree was not sufficient for me about 16 years ago. Talk less now, right? So getting a good degree, whether it's a first class like mine, or it's a 2-1, or even if it's a 2-2, is not sufficient. There's a lot more that is expected from each of us as we progress in life, right? Whether you want to be an entrepreneur or you've started in a career in engineering and all. So I'll be speaking to a few of the things today. We can move to the next slide. So the future of work is not in the future again. The future of work is here, right? Even though it says future, and sometimes you think that future is 2 years from now, 3 years, 5 years. No, the future of work is here with us. The future of work is here. And what are some of the things we see in the future of work and we are seeing? If we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so these are some of the things. Some of the things we're already seeing. There's the hybrid remote work, and we know that COVID-19, I mean, fast track this a lot, right? Where you don't necessarily need to be at work 5 times in a week anymore. Hybrid is that you can work, and in my organization, we work from the office 3 times in a week, and the other 2 times, 2 days you can work from home or anywhere you choose. There's more, is now more about the quality of work you deliver as against seeing you in the office every day. Remote work is even when you're in Nigeria and you're working for a US organization, you're earning in dollars, or you're working for an organization in Europe and you're still in Nigeria and you can fly in. When Nafa is receiving it, I'm receiving it too, right? Yeah, but that's remote work where it's 100% from wherever you are in the world, right? And all, and we already see that currently we see that yes, we're all receiving this remote work and all, but remote work takes a lot of discipline. So you can imagine working for a US organization in Nigeria. The time difference is, there's the time difference, right? So at night when your family friends are sleeping, you should be working, you will be working and all. But then again, it has its own advantages. Another thing we see now is the global talents. When I finished school X number of years ago, it was about competing with those in your class, competing with those engineers that you finished in the same state with. It was about competing with maybe Nigerian engineers, but it's no longer the same. Now it's a global talent, meaning that especially those of us claiming the remote work, you are competing with global talent. So you're competing with people that finish from different schools, whether it's Asia, that's China, India. Those guys are good analytically and all. In my master's, I had friends that were from China and all. Those guys, I salute them. They make great engineers too. And now we get to compete with them in terms of jobs, right? So if you see a job that is remote, just know that it's not Nigerians you are competing with anymore. You are competing with people, young people globally and all. So yeah, future of work is here, global talent. The third is life learning worker, right? Like I said, the degree is never enough anymore. And I heard Kim mention a lot about learning. We cannot afford not to be learners. I tell my daughter that leaders are readers, are learners, right? So we must continue learning. And there are so many resources to learn from, so many sites that we can learn from. When I did my course and my program with Harvard last year, I completed it. I basically just said, yes, I'm an economist, I'm doing well, but I want to know better and more, right? And I just registered for a course, a program with Harvard, and look at it, right? Continuous learning, and it won't be the last, right? I will do much more and many more and all. So yeah, life learning worker. So we keep learning. The fourth is on automation and AI. And automation impacts the engineering space in a massive way, right? In some countries, even in Nigeria, I want to believe some people have lost their jobs just because they were not able to go with the trend of automation. They were doing basic things that machines could do, and they lost their jobs, right? And so automation and AI is artificial intelligence, is here to stay, it's not going anywhere. The best we'll find is that there will be regulations around it, but it's here to stay. So we just all need to plug on it. If there's anybody on this call that's not used any AI tool as of now, let that change today. The last I'll talk about is gig economy and freelancing, right? And with hybrid work, remote work, people are able to do things on their own. Now we find Nigerian workers working not just one job, but two jobs. Sometimes people do things during the weekends and all. So yeah, opportunities for multiple streams of income, opportunities to also utilize your many other talents that might not necessarily be engineering and all. So yeah, that's the future of work, and it's here to stay with us. You can move to the next slide. So somebody say, what is required for me? With all of this you're saying, Esther, what's required? I'm going to spend a bit more time looking at some of the skills that Nkem mentioned, but looking at the top skills that are required. And I'm going to do it like in a story format, right? Well, not really a story, but just I need to also look at it from my system here, because I did a bit of color coding earlier. So just a second to, yeah, I joke with my team members when I see them use two systems in the office. And I'm like, what are you guys doing that I'm not doing? Tell me. And now I'm using two systems. But yeah. Okay, so let's talk about these top skills. But I want to look at it from 2015. So 2015, that's 9 years ago, right? What were the top skills? And then 2020, what is changing? Let's look at some trends, right? In 2015, some of the top skills, look at the first three, you can see complex problem solving, critical thinking. They were top skills. If you look at 2015, if you can see, it is quite small, but that's why I enlarged the other ones, right? Complex problem solving, critical skills were the top two skills that were required in 2015. Okay. If you look at top 10 skills in 2020, they didn't go anywhere. They are still there. Okay, as the top skills. You also are coordinating with others. And I like that Nkem was doing soft skills and hard skills. Now, coordinating with others, somebody say, I'm just a genius on my own. I don't want to work with anybody. Just give me the work, I'll deliver. Is a lie. It doesn't work like that. We need to work with people. Okay, so coordinating with others, especially as we grow in our careers, the technical skills become less important and the soft skills are more important, right? And people management, it was a top skill in 2015, 2020, a top skill, it will remain. We need to learn to work with people. We don't get as much of it in our universities in terms of working with people, right? But in real life, you work with people every day, whether it's an engineering project and or you have to work with people across, right? Now, those last two, creativity and emotional intelligence, they were not there in 2015 in the top 10 skills, but they were added in 2020 because there's so much more. Creativity, we need to be creative. People are developing products every day. People are looking at their engineering processes and looking for ways to make it better. That's creativity. Then there's emotional intelligence. And every time I have the opportunity to talk to young people, I'm like, emotional intelligence is so important. If you haven't, I didn't learn, even though I went to, I'm probably an Akokite, I didn't know what emotional intelligence was until I started my second role in PwC. That means in Deloitte, where I was a management consultant, I was a shining star. I did a lot of great work there. Things were good, amazing. I didn't know what emotional intelligence was, but guess what? When you start having difficulties at work, that's when you know that, emotional intelligence, I need it. And the earlier we know we need it and learn it, the better for us. But emotional intelligence is being able to manage your emotions and also understand the emotions of others. It's like what, and I say this is like walking into a room and just by looking at people, you know, almost like you can sense the emotions that will come up in the room and you are able to prepare ahead for it. These days, I actually use it, especially when I'm having those leadership and management team meetings and all. You get in there and you just scan the room. You know people, you know their emotions, so you know what to say and what not to say. This remains a top skill for us, right? We can move to the next slide. So I did a jump to 2023, right? That's last year. And I was asking myself, what has changed? Okay. A few things have changed. We still have, you will see that the number one there is analytical thinking. Okay. But analytical thinking is very close to critical thinking. Okay. But it's number one. And we see motivation and self-awareness. Now, motivation and self-awareness is also very close to emotional intelligence I just spoke about, right? So emotional intelligence remains very important because in emotional intelligence, you must know yourself first. Okay. Now it's beyond just knowing yourself. It's also what are the things you do to motivate yourself to do work and to do good work and all. That's another level. Not even waiting for people to motivate you. There are things I know I can do to motivate myself and I get the work done and all. So yeah, it's very important. This third and fourth ones, they're like the newbies. They were not there in 2020, but they are here now. Technological literacy. I mean, I'm not sure I need to explain that, but technological literacy is such a big deal now. So if we didn't know how to use basic technological tools, then you could still thrive in the engineering sector or in the general job market. But now you need to. Curiosity and lifelong learning. I've spoken about that when I was talking about, the future of work, right? Yeah. So in 2023, it was also recorded as a top skill. Creative thinking hasn't gone anywhere. There's expectation that we must continue to be creative thinkers. Quality control. And as I saw this, I thought this is important for engineers, right? Because the kind of work you do, you can't afford to miss it in terms of quality control. You have the lives of people in your hands, right? It was about a month ago that we heard of, and this was not in Nigeria, but there were some bridges that collapsed, right? Some people say Nigeria has happened to you if it was in Nigeria and all, but even in developed countries, and I think that was India, if I remember, there was like a bridge that collapsed and people lost their lives, right? You can imagine that the engineering companies will be questioned. Could they have maintained it better? What was used for it? So quality control, and it doesn't have to be at that level. no matter what level of service you are giving, even in your report writing, quality control is very important. Before you send that work to your boss, please review it and get fresh eyes to look at it. Ensure that there are no, have you ever reviewed a work that has typos? Yeah, like you can't even review it properly, right? So quality control, very important. Leadership and social influence, also very key. As we grow in our careers, leadership, thumbs up. Social influence, hello. People have gotten jobs just because they know people. And this is not about being biased and saying, oh, my father is not this and that. No, it's people, it's young people whose parents we do not know, but they have some level of social influence and they're using social tools, social media tools, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, LinkedIn, and they are showing value, right? There are some people that just because of the work they do, or that not even the work you see them do, it's different. The work they show that they do on LinkedIn. When you're thinking of an economic growth expert, you're thinking about me because I'm showing my work on LinkedIn regularly, right? You're thinking of an engineer that can do something in climate, or thinking of an engineer that can build a product. What are you thinking about? The way our mind works is the first two people you think about that you reach out to, right? That's the way it works, and all. So in terms of in terms of a top skill that is required now, social influence is so important. I see somebody drop networking. Yes. So, some people are great at doing it on social media. Some people are at events every weekend. Some people are at events every week, right? Networking with people, meeting with people. There's beyond networking, there's relationship building. So, you know how we can go to these networking events, give people our business cards, and then what happens? You just have a card and you did not even reach out before. Okay, but now social influence as a top skill means that when I meet you, I leave a great impression, right? And then I'm reaching out to you like the next week, right? I see opportunities that are relevant to you and I'm sharing it with you. It's not just a take, it's a give and take. And many times it's really about giving before you take and all. Okay, so the last slide on these top skills, right? And I know that Nkem also shared this, but I wanted us to look at how it has evolved, right? And that's why I brought out some of it. So analytical thinking has still remained, okay, and innovation. If you look at the second one I put, active learning and learning strategies. So now it's beyond just continuous learning, but what are your learning strategies? So if I ask us on this call, what is your learning strategy? Many of us will be quiet because we don't have learning strategy. You just say, I'm going to learn. So anything you see on the internet, you jump at it. No, we need to be intentional about our learning strategies, right? It dictates how long you work in an organization. So I need to be in this organization for 5 years. After 5 years, I need to move to another organization because I want to learn certain things that I wouldn't learn in my present organization. Okay. There's also complex problem solving. If anybody noticed, that complex problem solving has been there since 2015 as the number one. Now in 2025, that's next year, it's viewed as the still top 3. So we will continue to solve problems. As long as we're living on earth, there will be problems, right? And people say problem no dey finish. But guess what? The people that solve these problems are the ones that make money and are the ones that grow in their career. Now, solving complex problems, very important. Technology use has not left, but we've added to it monitoring and control. Okay. Now look at it in the engineering sector. Imagine if there was somebody continuously monitoring the bridges that collapsed. You would have sensed that this bridge is about to collapse all, right? So it has become very important not just to use technology in different ways, but also to be able to monitor the products we build and also to be able to control it, be sure that these products are still as strong as they were 10, 20 years ago. Another new one that I think is very interesting is technology design and programming. Technology design and programming is here to stay. As an engineer, it's easy to actually, we find engineers that move from core engineering to programming and all. Coding, coding is now a basic skill, right? It's expected. And with AI, you might not even need to learn coding because there are now AI tools that do coding for us. But for those people that understand the basics of coding, they are even able to utilize AI such that they are building products even faster than people that do not understand coding and all. So yeah, I've said a lot. The next slide is about, okay, Esther, you've said a lot. What are the personal enablers? What are the things I can quickly do now, okay, that will actually help me to start if I haven't started, or to continue in my journey of it. And I just put 5 simple ones, right? 5, pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, start them, do them. Embrace technology. If you don't like technology or you didn't like it before, please begin to love it and embrace technology. Be a continuous learner, continuously learn something. I was thinking today and I was saying, even though I'm not working officially today, I was saying, next week there's something I want to learn. I want to learn this particular thing in business development and all. Be a continuous learner. I have business shows that I watch every week. In fact, there's one particular business show that I watch every day. Like, my system know every day I'm watching it by 11 a.m. Just based on the work I do as an economist. As an engineer, what is that thing you do every week that ensures that you keep up to trends in your industry, right? Whether it's watching it or reading about it, very important to be part of our habits. Social skills development, teamwork, emotional intelligence, networking, communication. Assess yourself and say, what do I need to improve in my social skills? Solve critical thinking and problem solving cases. Sometimes in work, we don't want to be given the difficult task. We say, no, don't give it to me. Just give me the easy one that I can close early and all. That doesn't help us to grow. The last I put is volunteer to lead and manage projects. Volunteer means that you might not be paid extra for it. It means that it might take up some of your free time. But as a young engineer, as you volunteer on projects, you learn more than those that have been in the field for longer time and all. My final slide is on, this is Steve Jobs, and he did say that innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity, not as a threat. So as much as we've said that things are changing, it's not a threat, it's an opportunity for all of us to learn and all. There are also some other quotations here by Barack Obama, and he says the future belongs to young people with an education and the imagination to create. And I like the last quote. The last quote says, do not wait to strike. Do not wait to strike till the iron is hot, but make it hot by striking. So I encourage every young engineer on this call to strike in different ways, strike in your learning, strike in your soft skills, strike by embracing technology, strike by volunteering, and the future of work is here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther. Please, Esther's link is in the chat if you want to connect with her. As we wait for questions, Esther, you see this thing about social selling, that was the my own light bulb moment, because I've never seen it as a soft skill. And I've been doing work for like 2 decades of my life. And in the past 2 years, I've been more intentional about showing what I do and the kind of opportunities I've been getting. So that for me was just like, whew, light bulb. I now have decided I want to invest more in building that skill, you know, because I never thought it was, yeah. Somebody said, awesomely awesome. Yeah, you know, I told you she makes me feel short. So I don't know if there are any shorter. Nkem took the
Don't
first
mind
few.
Napa is my mentor.
Leave that thing. You know, but I think one of the things that you've highlighted is that, you know, the change is happening. You know, we are becoming, we're getting to a point where we have no excuse. So you have to now be intentional about growing your hard and soft skills and staying ahead of trends. Because, you know, this internet has made it such that we are adopting trends at the speed. Every day I learn about a new AI tool. Every single day, there's a new one, a new one. So you're
Yeah.
beyond the degree foundation. I don't know, Esther, if you mind just spending 2 minutes a little bit on it. We've dropped the link. Faith dropped the link in the chat.
Okay.
Can you talk a bit about what
Okay.
the foundation actually does? Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, glad to in 2 minutes, right? So yeah, I started Beyond the Degree Foundation about 10 years ago. And when I discovered that there's just that skill gap between what we learn in school and what we actually need in the job market, right? So yeah, Beyond the Degree Foundation is targeted at recent graduates across different fields and students that are about to leave school, right? And what we do is that we equip students and recent graduates with skills, hard skills and soft skills. We have a community of young people. We do monthly sessions. So I have my community manager on my neck many times, like, Esther, what are we doing this month and all? So yeah, we cover soft skills, analytical skills, some of these things I spoke about today, right? And we're intentional about equipping Nigerians and Africans with the skills that are needed for them to thrive in the job market. So yes, you can follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow us on LinkedIn. Send us a note there if you like to join the community and all. So that's what Beyond the Degree is about. And Napa was our guest speaker last year, our guest speaker in our annual event last year. So yeah, thank you.
Esther, thank you. What you're doing is amazing because we all know that our educational system is still ramping up and our government is doing a great job in trying to invest there. But being able to provide a platform where when you graduate, like you did, superstar brain, you know, everybody was saying, wow, wow, wow. It was like ambulance. Wow, wow, wow. To first class, this one, you know. So I would encourage all of you that maybe are in that space where you've graduated and you have done well in school, but now you want to transition into actually working and building the schools, please connect with Beyond the Degree Foundation. What they're doing is simply amazing. Esther, thank you so much. I hope you will take some time to look at the comments, food for thought. Even me, I'm going to go through the slides again, quite a lot to think about and prepare for, especially that comparison of the skills. That was very interesting for me.
Thank you.
So
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Esther. So we're going to the last session of the day. And before then, we're going to do just one last vote. So of course, A and B. This vote, this one is very interesting for me because it shows the mindset of our people. So INEC is watching. So A is whether you prefer David. Edidion, how far now? Olishare, why? You didn't even wait. B, are you sure? A is Davido and B is our African giants. Faith says A. I'm seeing a lot of Davido. Obio in the chats. Jonathan, it's a tough one. It's usually not a tough one for most people. B, A, B, yeah, Engineer Ibrahim says B, yeah, John says B. So it's a mixed bag. You know, there's a reason I didn't put Wizkid here because that would have caused, Jonathan, you like them equally. I rarely find people like that. So please join me in welcoming our last speaker of the day. We have 30 more minutes, and this is very interesting. I think Nkem and Esther have done such an amazing job in laying the foundation for Chisom, for Cynthia. So Cynthia Chisom is a dear sister of mine. She has a wealth of global experience in startup advising. She's collaborated with the renowned incubators, accelerators such as CC Hub, which was founded by our Minister of Digital Economy, VC4A, and Ventures Platform, among others. She's the principal partner at SCD Ecosystem, where she leads the SDC Startup School, fostering entrepreneurship through education, tailored support. Additionally, Cynthia serves as the VP of Ecosystem and Ventures Lab at Spark Africa HQ. She's known for organizing the Africa Startup Festival and Africa Tech Expo. She also holds the position of Head of Corporate Strategy at the Aboki Africa, which is an amazing startup that you should check out. With an MSc in Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Management from Imperial College, London Business School, Cynthia is recognized by Tech Cabal as a key contributor to the Abuja startup ecosystem. Hey, all right. You know, all these names you guys are throwing for us today, all these, you know, London Business School, Harvard, you know, Microsoft. I refuse to be shorter than I really am. I'm already short, Cynthia. You will not humble me further.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Okay, so
Thank you,
I'm handing
Napa.
over to you to, I'm going to stop presenting so we can, I'm handing over to you so you can speak on building a successful startup.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to make sure that my screen is all good to go. Okay, so I believe you can all see my screen, right? It's clear?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Napa. It's always a pleasure to, do anything with you, collaborate on any project with you. You know, you're such an amazing person. Thank you for inviting me here. Kim and Esther, you did a fantastic job, talking about the part of, engineers wanting to work at a job, and be part of like a system, right? So I'm going to be speaking to the people who want to eventually do something of their own, right? You don't want to work for anyone. You want to launch a startup, right? My job is to, will I say, open the bag, and so that you can see everything that it takes to actually be a startup founder. So I realized that it's been 11 years now since I moved from being an engineer to actually being a startup founder and now a startup advisor. I remember the year where I decided that, I was going to spend the rest of my life building a startup that I was really passionate about, and I've watched it sort of evolve over time. So I would say I'm in the best position to sort of talk to this audience about what it means to make that transition from being an engineer to being a founder. I know my professors, their hearts will be wailing because they had hopes for me, especially because of this course I studied. I studied building engineering, so not many people end up becoming builders, right? And so for me to tell them that, see, I know I love this education, I'm going to get the first class degree, but when we are done, this is probably the last time you see me, right? So I know that their hearts will be wailing, but there are my classmates, they're doing very well in carrying that flag, and I'm proud of them as well, right? So what does it mean, and what does it take to actually be a startup founder? Is it as easy as it seems on the outside? What are the different things that you need to consider before you start, thinking about being a founder? The first things first is you need to understand what a startup is. There's a lot of noise and conversation around, startup. I'm sure you guys have heard about startup. Most of you are aspiring towards it because you've seen some names, you've heard some numbers, and so you're like, oh, I want to be a startup founder. But the first things first is to understand what a startup is and what a startup is not, right? So a startup is any business venture that focuses on leveraging technology to solve a problem at a really large scale for a global audience. I'll take that again. You're interested in solving a problem for a global audience using technology to sort of scale that. So this is different from someone who is interested in solving a problem for a community, right? For a group of people within a particular city. And it's not bad. It's just that it's not a startup. And the difference is that the pace of growth for a startup is really, really fast as compared to someone who is just building a small business or a consulting firm or a lifestyle business. The expectations, the growth expectations are way higher. The scale and the magnitude of what you're building is way larger. And so that means your capacity to grow and your capacity to learn really fast is really, really important because of what it is that you're building. So from day one, when you're thinking about that problem and how to solve it, you're already thinking about how you're going to do that for millions and millions of people. So that's why a startup is different from a regular, like, small business. So I think I already hinted at what a startup is not, right? A startup is not a regular mom and pop shop, right? That is selling tomatoes or clothing. And it's not that those things are bad. As a matter of fact, it is said that, these businesses contribute to the economy in such a great measure. But a startup thinks it has a different type of DNA. And also it requires a different kind of founder to be able to, champion that particular progress, right? And that particular problem and the solution in itself. So the question is, now that you know what a startup is, right, why should you even consider launching a startup? When do you get to a point where you're like, okay, maybe I should actually do this? You know, maybe you come to that point where you say, okay, I think I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing this, you know, just like I decided, 11 years back, right? So first things first, I want us to look at a couple of people, right? How many of you recognize these guys in the picture here? If you know them and what they actually founded, just put it in the caption. Oh, okay. Somebody says Money Points. Is this guy correct? I need someone else. Who do you think? Are these founders? These are founders, yes. And what do you think they launched? What do you think they launched? Anybody else? Okay. So I'm going to give it to, assuming I was giving out a gift, would I have gotten more responses? All right. Anyways, I want to say that Chika is correct. I think I'll give a gift later, and I have some part of the program that requires some reward. So yes, you're right, Money Point, right? How many of you know Money Point? Maybe you don't know these guys, but you know Money Point. Just put in the caption, Money Points. Money Points. If anybody doesn't know Money Points at this at this point, no pun intended, I don't think you're a Nigerian, because everywhere you go, you see Money Points. Any POS points, everywhere you see Money Points. How did these two young men, they found a problem, they solved it, and it has grown so massively that even the farmer in your village is using Money Points, to withdraw cash. I can't remember when last I used an ATM, to be honest. I can't remember standing on the queue of an ATM because there's Money Points everywhere, right? And yes, these guys are Tosin and Felix, and they actually launched a startup. So let's see another guy. How many of you know this young man? If you know this young man or his name, oh wow, Napa, you're not supposed to be answering this question. You're part of the ecosystem, you understand? Okay, thank you very much. So, Napa is giving it out. So, yes, this is Shola, but what did Shola actually do? What's the name of the startup that he launched? Anybody, what's the name of the startup that Shola launched? What is the name of the startup that Shola launched? Anybody? Come on, you guys. That is the question, right? What is the name? No problem. Okay. So I think that's one of these you notice about these founders. Sometimes they tend to be low-key. But let me just go on. The name of the startup he launched is Paystack. How many of you know Paystack, or you've heard about Paystack, or you've seen Paystack logo anywhere? Just indicate you've seen Paystack, you've heard about them. So Paystack is one of the, if not the foremost fintech startups, right, in the ecosystem. There was InterSwitch and so on and so forth, but Paystack, but I think it was also the first real big exit of the Nigerian ecosystem. So it really made a lot of noise, right, for us, and we're really proud of him. But same thing again, he saw a problem and decided to solve it. And in doing that, he launched a startup. Okay, this guy has given away his startup on his chest, right? He said, carry your name on your chest. So yeah, he's the founder of Chowdeck. How many of you know Chowdeck? If you like ordering for food online, yes, Paystack alumni, exactly, So Chowdeck has definitely made a name in an ecosystem and industry where the big guys like Jumia are disappearing from the scene. Chowdeck is, taking their 2 foot on the ground and making sure that, they conquer this particular industry. And it's really incredible to see what Femi has built with Chowdeck. So I think the last person I'm going to show you is these two guys. They are the co-founders of Move. They are the co-founders of Move. They're the co-founders of Move, named Jide and Ladi. And Ladi and Jide decided to solve a problem around vehicle financing for people who are interested in doing this thing called Uber. Because one of the major challenges they saw was that people want to do Uber, they want to drive on Uber, they want to drive on boats, but they don't have the vehicle to do that. So how about we solve that problem? So one of the things that you see across all these individuals I've mentioned is that they are solving a problem experienced by millions of people, right? I think this is something that I want you to take away from here. You know, don't just be interested about launching a startup and having your name on a card or opening a LinkedIn page with the logo of your startup there. Or, you know, just going around with the tagline and the t-shirts with your logo on it. That's not the essence of you building a startup. A startup has a much more, you know, significant purpose than that, which is to solve a problem that millions of people are experiencing and no one has, you know, been able to step forward. And you're that brave girl and that brave guy that is saying, you know what, I'm going to step out and I'm going to allow my head to be on the chopping block. Because yes, when you are doing this thing called startup, your head is actually going to be on chopping block, right? This time around, they're not cutting your head off, they're just knocking it multiple times. And I'm not saying that to scare you, I'm just giving you the reality of things, but I'm going to get into that, you know, very soon. But also you're also changing their lives in the process because of companies like MoneyPoint. I mean, take MoneyPoint for example, you don't know how many people have been able to launch businesses and, you know, clear out debts and loans, build houses, you know, go around with a new car, a brand new car, because of the fact that MoneyPoint gave them the opportunity to launch a business through their MoneyPoint POS, right? So whenever you're thinking about solving a problem, you first of all need to think about how that problem is really going to, how that solution is transforming the lives of the people who are experiencing the problem. So it's a hard thing to do. I think I have to really emphasize that. Forget like the, you know, the glamour that is seen on the outside, you know, the name, the many speaking engagement that you probably get, or the logo or the office space. It's hard work, right? It's truly hard work. And you need to be prepared. You need to be properly prepared for that life, right? You need to be properly prepared for that life. And it takes a lot of dedication. Dedication in terms of like your time. It is even said, you know, not that it's even said, I know that for myself, you know, I'm always working every day, always working, you know. I don't want to say day and night because I'm trying to get my nights to myself, but during the day, I'm always working. And there are some founders where they get to work all through the night. You know, at the very beginning of my startup, I had to work all through the night, you know, to be able to put things in shape. So it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of resilience and perseverance because you will be faced with challenges. There's a lot of issues with being a founder. You have the issue of your staff, the issue of the operations, the issue of your customer, your own self, you know, because at the very beginning, you may not have all the money in the world to launch a startup like some people who are able to raise money. And so there's a very high chance that you will have to use your own personal funds at the very beginning. So there'll be days where you'll be drinking Gary. There'll be days where you'll be, you know, trekking because you cannot afford to spend, or because you've spent that money on either you know, making the service available to the customer or solving the problem for the user, right? So it would take more than just, you know, being passionate about being an entrepreneur. And it will take an undying love. Yes, an undying love for the problem, an undying love for the people who experience the problem. I'm going to say that again. For you to be able to go through this life of being a founder, you need to have an undying love for the people experiencing the problem and an undying love for the problem itself. Because when the going gets tough, you will just remind yourself of why you are actually doing this and who you're actually doing this for. Because the moment you become a founder, what you do is to carry another person's Ghana must go and put it on your head. Only that this time around, the Ghana must go is not for one person. It's for like hundreds and thousands and millions of people that you have to take on your head, and you have to carry it with your full chest. With a great team, you'll be able to carry it together, but eventually you're carrying another person's Ghana must go. All right. So it's a very good, this is the best way I can just lay the foundation for you to just know what is ahead of you. So now at this point, after hearing all the things I said about, you know, being a founder, what it takes and the things that are waiting for you, you know, the pleasure, because it is pleasurable to see people smile because you decided to solve their problem, and also the pressure of going through that process of delivering value. You have made that decision to do it regardless. How do you start? You see, this question of how do I start, you know, being one of the ecosystem players in Abuja, Nigeria, and also the continent at large, I usually get founders in my DM, you know, with a very simple question of, oh, you know, I have this idea, I want to, you know, this is what I think I want to do, but I don't even know where to start from. You see, this question of knowing where to start, I think any founder who is able to know how and where to start has literally, you know, will I say, solved 80% of the problem. Because that place of being confused as to how to go about things can literally allow you waste time, energy, and resources in the wrong direction. You see, I can give you stories for days. There's a particular founder who is currently on the SDC Launchpad. It's a female founder. She had been working on this particular idea for 3 years now, right? When she first started, she was clueless. She was just passionate. Oh, I want to be able to teach people how to do this. You know, this is something that I want to do. And then she started in the best way she could because there was no platform for her to acquire the knowledge required to start. And so for 3 years, she wasted time, spent money, because you're going to spend money in the process, hiring and firing people, spend lots of money. She pays, you know, a number of people millions of naira a month trying to build out the technology that she thought was the answer to the problem. And eventually she was at this point of giving up when she found out about SDC Launchpad. These are, I mean, stories. There's a particular founder that I interviewed on the SDC podcast, which is also called Startup Stories with Cynthia. It's a podcast that allows a lot of young people who are interested in becoming founders to listen to the stories of founders who have gone ahead of them. They may not have gone as far as Paystack, but they are just close enough for them to learn a lot of lessons from. So this founder worked at Nokia for years, made a lot of money. And he was like, you know, there's this problem I saw in Abuja when I came to Abuja. You know, it's logistics. It's really hard for me to find like a way to deliver and pick up things from my sister. It's his own personal story. And at the end of the day, he was like, okay, let me build this. And he spent 6 million naira for 8 months trying to do this. He finally launched, and another 8 months. After 8 months, he couldn't get one single user or one single naira as like income for his startup. That's when he knew that he had messed things up, and he had to sort of make mistakes, start again and refresh before he finally found what he's currently doing, tens of millions of naira today. So if you want to listen to his story, just go to any podcast platform, Startup Stories with Cynthia, and you'll find his story. He's a co-founder of Nearpace and the co-founder of Your Rider, right? So being able to figure out how to start and where to start from helps, it saves time for you and it saves resources. And so that's why I'm really, really happy that I get to show you how, not just from my experience and the experience of like many founders I've interacted with, but also from a framework that is very, very impactful and has changed the lives of many people who have used it so far. And so one of the things that I teach at SDC Startup School, right, as I'm sure you saw the website at the top there, right, www.startupschool.com. It's what I launched as a result of the fact that I kept getting questions around how to start, where do I start? And so I was able to build out a framework that makes it easy for anybody who is interested in launching a startup, right? If you're interested in launching a startup and you don't know where to start from, you go to that school and you acquire the knowledge, acquire your certification. It's free, right? For you to join the school, and you're able to sit and learn. What I'm going to do today is more or less like give a brief summary, because this is something that we've done in 13 lessons, right? 13 different classes on how to actually start and launch. But I'll give you an overview so that at least you get a sense of where to start from, right? So the first thing you need to realize is that, you know, there are 3 phases in a startup journey, which is the start phase, the scale phase, and the sustain phase. So almost each and every one of you here right now are the start phase. and you want to know what to do at this particular phase of your journey. The first place to start from is the customer discovery. And when you've figured out who your customer is, you begin to understand the problem that they're experiencing. This is so important. And then the relationship between the problem and the customer, as well as the relationship between the problem and the solution. And then you go on to figure out the business model and how you get to product market fit. You see this point of product market fit, this is the point where we say if this company is going to be successful, or if it's actually going to fail. If you're in the ecosystem, you probably have heard about product market fit. It's such a very critical point. It's like the end of the road, you know, or that junction between success and failure for any startup. And this is something that research has already backed up. So how do you know if what you're doing, if you have found product market fit? That is the end of your journey, but you start out with the customer, problem, PCF, PSF, BMF, and then PMF. So that's the process. So let's start, right? Let's turn the theory into practical. The first is the customer discovery. What is that about? You see, before you understand the concept of customer discovery, let's talk about what the journey is like for you as a founder. You are probably doing stuff, and then from your personal experience or from observation, you realize that, oh, you know, this is a problem that exists, and it would be nice if we can solve this problem. It usually starts out like that. It's usually like a personal experience. Just the case of Child Deck, you know, he noticed that it was hard for him to get items, you know, delivered to him or order for food online. But when he got to Dubai, he saw that he was ordering for food in less than 20 minutes. And why is it that he can't get the same here? And so it usually starts with an observation or a personal experience. And then you usually come out with a statement like, oh, what if there was a way to make food delivery faster and cheaper, right? You know, it's really hard. So I'm going to give a fictitious example of, say you wanted to, you know, pay for something at a shop, and then you realize that when you were trying to pay with your transfer, it was very slow. And you were like, oh, this is so not nice. Like, why is it taking so long for me to, you know, pay for this food, right? And then you say to yourself, what if there was a way to make payment like faster? What if there was a way to, you know, solve this particular pain problem? And that's how it usually starts. So at this point, you have an idea statement, right? And in that idea statement, what you have is the problem, the person who is experiencing the problem, and what you think is the solution. I'm going to say that again. In every idea statement or every idea you come up with, there is always the problem, the person who is experiencing the problem, and an idea of the solution you think would work, right? And I say the solution you think would work because at the very beginning, because of your personal experience, you think that this is the best solution to actually solve that problem. But when you go through this process, you are able to discover many different ways to solve a particular person's problem. It's like a child, maybe your aunt told you to take care of a child, you just babysit the child for a while, right? And then you notice that this child keeps crying. You bring a bottle of milk to him, it doesn't weep. You carry a toy to him, it doesn't weep. You bring this, you bring that. What do? You keep bringing all these different solutions you think would work until you finally find the one that calms the baby down. That's what you're doing as a founder. You are aware of the problem, you are aware of who is experiencing the problem, and your goal is to figure out the best way to solve that problem for the person, not based on what you think is the solution to the problem, but based on what best fits that particular customer and the problem they're experiencing. This is so critical because this is where a lot of founders make the mistake. They have an idea, and in that idea, they have a solution that they think would work for that particular customer and that particular problem. And they say, oh, because it's a personal experience, I'm sure many other people like me would want it. But guess what? You are one out of over 7 billion people in the world, and maybe over 100 million people that are in that space. And everybody's experiences and interests are different. And so your goal is to spend time doing adequate research to see how it best fits. All right. So when you have that idea statement, the first thing you do is to figure out who is experiencing the problem. In the case of you trying to do a transfer, the person who's experiencing the problem is you, the person who's trying to pay, right? You're the one experiencing the problem of payment. And so what do you do at this phase is to identify and be able to analyze the experiences of the person who is experiencing the problem. So by the time you're done with this phase, you should be able to know who you're going to serve and whether you should serve them or not, right? Because this is important. You say that, oh, this person is experiencing this problem, but then maybe you realize that the problem is not actually from the individual, it's from the platform that they are using, or not just even from the platform. So one of the things you understand about the fintech space is that whatever app you're using in front, there are many other stakeholders behind the scene that have to talk to each other before you can make that transfer. And so because something is slow for you, you will not realize that the reason why it's slow to you is because stakeholder A or B is having issues. So the person you should be solving the problem for is not really the person who has the app, but the person at the back who is actually in charge of making that transaction work, right? So your goal at this phase is to understand who you're serving. The essence of your startup is to solve a problem for someone. And so from day one, you should be able to properly identify who they are. So by the time you're done with this stage, and I say this stage because in the school, we itemize all the different tools and steps you need to take. I just have like less than 30 minutes to teach this. So I won't be able to go into the detail. And I'm sure I'm getting close to the end of my time. I'll be able to go into detail, but at this stage, how to know you've done a proper customer discovery is when you have a list of stakeholders and customers that you will be serving. And so the next stage is to understand the problem, right? So at this stage, you know who you want to serve. Your goal is to now see the problem that they're experiencing, go into their life, spend a day with them, discover that particular problem. At this stage, I'll give an example of a company called Bank of America Merrill Lynch, right? So many years back, they reached out to a company called IDEO. IDEO is a design agency, right? They help solve problems for different organizations. And so this Bank of America came to them and was like, see, we just launched this, savings card and we're giving it to our customers, but they're not using it. We want to know why people are not using this savings card and savings account. And so they said, okay, no worries. So IDEO brought in their team together. And the first question they asked themselves is, when it comes to the habit of saving, in every family, who is the person that saves the most? Who is the person that saves the most? Okay, anybody should just try. In a typical family, who is the person that is usually in charge of saving in the house? Anybody? Just anybody should just try. Exactly, the mother. Exactly, the mother. So that was their first discovery. Like, okay, mothers are, in any family, mothers are usually the ones in charge of saving. So they said, okay, let's identify 5 to 10 mothers that we're going to spend a day in their life and see how they go about saving at this point. And so that's what they did. So they went in, spent a day with them, and they discovered something truly tremendous. What did they see? Okay, so they saw a typical mother at that time in America is like a stay-at-home mom. They wake up early in the morning, they take care of their kids, get them ready for school, drop them at school, and from there they go for shopping. So when they go for shopping, they buy stuff, they buy things, and they pay for the stuff, and then you receive, in dollar and cents, right? Cents are in coins, right? And then the dollar is a cash paper, right? They take it home and they go up to their cupboard, open it, and they see a jar, and then they open it and they put those coins in the jar and they lock it and put it back in the cupboard. This was something that they saw as a trend across all the mothers. And they said, that's it. That's how these customers save. So how can we convert that and leverage technology to scale this for many mothers? Because obviously saving in a jar is not sustainable. Someone can steal it. So we need to find a safer place to do that, but still maintain these habits, because this is how they currently save. And this is how they experience the problem of saving. And so what did they do? They told Bank of America, what you should do is anytime these mothers pay for stuff, or anytime you pay for anything, convert that extra cent that is being charged. So let's say you're buying something and it's $2.50. So instead of you charging $2.50, actually charge $3 and save 50 cents on their behalf in their savings account. And that was it. And that was how they were able to scale that across board. And so what you will learn from this particular story is that they did not say that, oh, they're going to sit in their room and then figure out what the solution is. No, they went right into the lives of those people and interacted with them. The method of research they use is called anthropology, right? They interacted in their lives and then discovered the problem that they're experiencing and the best way to solve that problem. So at this point, in your problem discovery phase, you should have a list of key assumptions that you have about the people that you're choosing to serve. Now, the second phase is the problem customer fit. So yes, you have like a list of key problems that they're experiencing, but you also need to figure out if there is a fit between the problem and the customer. Is this problem true for the customer? Is this actually what they're experiencing, or is there something much more deeper than that? At this point, I'll tell the story of a young man. So he walks into the office and then he sees that the tap is broken. And then he sees a colleague and asks, okay, what happened here? Why is the tap broken? And he said, oh, Yinka came into the kitchenette and then he broke the tap and he left it like that. So anybody on the outside will say, Yinka is a very bad person. He broke the tap. He broke the tap. But someone who is going through the problem customer fit properly would ask another question, who said, why? Why did this person break the tap? And they say, oh, he broke the tap because, HR got him angry and was very angry, and then he broke the tap. And then you ask a question again, okay, why was he angry at the HR? Oh, because HR actually, sanctioned him for something that he didn't do wrong. And that was it. And so you discover that the real problem is not really in the tap getting broken. It's actually because HR was found doing something that he or she shouldn't do. Now, that is what you call a root cause. So for every surface level problem that you see or experience, there is a much deeper problem within. And that is something that you need to bear in mind for this phase. So at the end of this phase, you have a list of key insights and opportunities that you would love to explore about this particular customer. And then you go to the problem solution fit. This is so important because a lot of founders have a preconceived idea of what the solution should be. But if you go through this process very well, this would help you realize that there are many ways to solve a particular problem. Right? So, for example, in Lagos is known for its traffic. And so people are experiencing the problem of getting food. They realize that, most restaurants, nobody is dining in anymore, right? The dining in percentage has now reduced. And so you begin to find out why. And then you realize, the reason why, people are not dining anymore is because of the traffic. Everybody has to go home. And so there's no way they can just drive into a restaurant and start eating there. They'd rather just go home. And so to you, the first solution you're thinking is, let's do delivery. Let them order and then you deliver at home. But what if I tell you there are many ways you can solve that problem? An option could be, instead of, solving the problem, through delivery, order for your food at home. And then when you get home, you see the food. That's one option. Second option could be, as you're driving, you have different, points along your route or along the bus stops where you can just pick up the food that you order for. That's one option. Another option is to have someone ride around with a pack of food, right, on a bicycle through the traffic and be sharing and delivering food, and people can buy for food directly from the traffic. That's another option. There are many ways you can solve a particular problem. That's something that we're trying to establish at this phase. Do not keep yourself to a singular solution, but instead discover the many ways you can solve that particular problem, explore it, experiment it, and then see the one that best fits. That's why it's called a problem solution fit. I'm going to quickly go through this, which is business model fit. You see, no matter how amazing your solution is, if nobody's willing to pay for it, you do not have a business. You actually don't have a startup. You need to be, especially now where funding is not as much as then as it used to be, where you could just take all the money from investors and then run ads and before you now figure out where you are with your startup. No, from day one, you need to start thinking about how you're going to generate money from this. So in developing a business model in startup school, we teach in detail how to go about this. And then finally, you have your product market fit, which is where you are able to find out if customers are willing to pay. So let's say this is how you say you're going to generate the money from the customer. You need to go out and actually test if they're actually willing to pay that money for the solution that you've presented to them. If they are not willing to pay for it, no, you haven't found product market fit, because think about it. The money is the fuel that keeps the business alive. If there is no way this business is making money one way or another, you're going to definitely be on a long run. I want to give a final example, but I don't know how many minutes I have before I'm able to.
Yeah, I think you can take 1 minute. We're going to, please, everyone, just try and stay on. We're going to make sure we release everybody by 12:15 latest. So Cynthia, 1 more minute, and then we will take questions, and we'll just give out the prizes and announcements. So please go ahead.
All right. So I want to give an example, especially when it comes to business model and product market fit. So there's a particular startup in the US, right? When they came into the market, they said they want to help people who have, pets, right? They wanted to help people who have pets to get access to the right care. So these two startups I'm going to talk about, one is Fuzzy, the other one is Evet. So they came into the picture and said they want to help people. People who have pets, they don't have a way of getting their pets taken care of. How about we help them? So they built out a business model, a B2C business model, which is direct to the customer. So the customer pays for it and they're able to get access to all the different services and products. After about a year, 2 years, they had to shut down. They had raised a lot of money, but they shut down because there was no way the business was going to stay alive. Because no matter how much money you raise from the outside, you still need business from the inside to keep it sustained. Check, every company has been around for 100 years, 200 years, and more. These companies were sustained by the revenue that they generated from the business. So obviously, they had to shut down. And then came this other company into the scene. And these guys were solving the same problem for the same people, but they approached their business model from a different angle. So they realized that people who own pets work at companies, right? So instead of telling these people who own the pets to actually, pay for the services, they reached out to the employers and said, I see that you're always looking for how you can give employee benefits to your employees. How about you introduce our product as one of the employee benefits for your employees? That way you're able to attract the best employees, and able to keep them because then you're getting more benefits from it. And that was it. So instead of waiting for people to pay $2, $3, $5, you have one company who is paying $50,000. You have 20 of these companies where you don't have to stress for the next 5 years because they're paying that constant amount of money to you. And that was how they're able to sustain the business and they've been alive since then. So the unit economics for the first business was very poor because the amount of money you spend trying to convert and get a lot of people to pay $2 and $5 for a service versus you spending maybe a small amount of time or a length of time trying to acquire one customer, and that customer stays with you, has a longer lifetime value, and you have a sustained business. So that's what the impact of your business model and product market fit is, beyond just the problem and the solution, but also the business model. Okay, so like I said, 30 minutes is not enough to teach on this. So you can go to startupschool.com to get more of these lessons. It's really important. And for those in Abuja, one of the things that you need to emphasize as the founder is community, because your mental health is important. And so that's why we have Founders Friday, which happens like last Friday of every month in Abuja. So if you want to learn more about it, just go to my page on Instagram or Twitter, where I get to share updates on Founders Friday. All right. So with that said, thank you. Thank you, Napa, and thank you all for listening. Looking forward to your questions.
Yeah. So Cynthia, my first question, you said you were going to give a prize.
I said I had forgotten about it. So yes, it's
forgotten.
all right. So the prize is going to go to anyone who is able to answer this final question, right? And the gift is free access to the SDC community, right? Free access to the SDC community and a one-on-one session with me where we get to talk about the problem you're trying to solve and how you are going about that. So, are you ready for the question? So I just spent the last 30 minutes. I just spent the last 30 minutes talking about how to launch a startup. So tell me, out of the 5 different steps you take, mention at least 4 of those steps that you need to take. So there are about 6 of them. You can mention, okay, let's do 5. Mention at least 5 of the different steps you need to take when building a startup. Okay, 5. So there are 6 different blocks that are connected to each other when it comes to building a startup. So mention at least 5 of those blocks.
And it's the first person to write it out in the group chat that gets the prize of free
Yes.
access to the community, and then a discovery
One-on-one
session with you to discuss. Okay. All right. So Faith, please note the name of the person and then DM the person so we can get their email address and make sure they get their prize. So we're waiting because this 1-hour session with Cynthia is gold. Because she will be able to take you through your idea. Cynthia, we have a submission. Is Kingsley right?
Oh, no, Kingsley
is Mike
isn't.
Right?
Mike has,
no.
Okay, there's, no,
Engineer
Mike
Ben?
is not complete. Engineer Ben has, yes, that's our winner right there. Problem customer fit.
All right. That's a huge prize. So congratulations, Engineer Ben. Yeah. Oh, we have, people are coming late. Oh my God. Cynthia, there's only one winner, right?
There's only one winner.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so congratulations, Engineer Ben eBay, for winning that prize. We know we have a lot of questions around this because this is like, I've been in the startup ecosystem, so I understand how sometimes for those of us that haven't been, how interesting this topic will be. We've dropped the links to connect with Cynthia and the Startup School. We're just going to quickly, because we're 7 minutes over and I want to release us, we're going to Faith, make sure you get Engineer Benny's details so we can send his prize across. We have a couple of announcements. There is an amazing book called The Communicator's Compass. Nkem Esther spoke about soft skills. Faith, can you just come very quickly in less than 30 seconds and talk about the prize? I know we're giving away 3 of these free copies of this book to the audience today.
All right. Hello, everyone. So the author of this book, Stacy, very amazing, very smart woman, put together an easy to understand guide to help you in any communication related field. So it covers everything from personal branding, effective communication strategies, and networking. So I'll drop the link in the chat now. If you're interested, you can get a free copy of Stacy's book. It's called The Communicator's Compass. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're only giving away 3 copies of this free book, but it also has like templates if you want to do your LinkedIn, if you want to send out emails for that. It's very, very practical. The second announcement is we have an event for Build for Balance. It's called the Public Speakers Toolkit. It's going to teach you how to confidently speak either in a physical event or in a virtual event, and the things you need to learn. So you can sign up. Faith is going to drop the link as well. And then we have another event coming up that teaches you how to sell. In fact, Chika is on the call. Chika is going to be one of our speakers. And it's not teaching you the art of selling, it's the science, how you can sell anything. So please register for the event. And as always, we appreciate feedback. So if you can drop us things we can do better and things we can improve on, that would be amazing. I do want to say thank you to all the speakers, but most especially thank you to our host, Engineer Osi, and the Nigerian Engineers Society of Abuja. So Engineer Osi, I think it's only fitting that you close out the event with a vote of thanks. So I'm handing over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Napa. And I want to, on behalf of the executive committee and members of our branch, sincerely thank you and your team for this wonderful program you've put together. I can't thank you enough. I can only say that God will bless all of you. And I assure you that we are going to take it further beyond this to make sure that we get all the necessary feedback from our members and also look at other opportunities that we can take from this program and how we can also continue to improve the lot of our members. Once again, I say a very big thank you to you, and I say a very big thank you to all the participants. I'm very proud of you, and I will continue to do everything possible to serve you better. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have an amazing rest of the weekend. And Esther, Nkem, and Cynthia, you three of you have been amazing. Have an amazing rest of the day. Bye, everyone.